Furry FM News.
Good evening and welcome to the English Furry.fm news, with myself Ivic and my co-host Scratch. This evening we'll bring you some interesting news from around the world. Our main story this evening will be the hacking of Furaffiniy, where a group of people managed to get the source files of Furaffiniy, currently one of the largest image sharing sites in the furryverse, and find a way to worm into the system itself. A man in a hedgehog costume had threatened to bomb a local Baltimore news station. We will also look at the bill recently passed by the Higher Administrative Court in Munster, where they found that the shredding of male chickens after hatching to be legal.
We will then turn to South African news, where we look at the recent decision to lift the ban of domestic sales of rhino horn in South Africa. And for this we will be joined by our local correspondent and environmental researcher Dan Leo, who will be able to give us some insight as to why this lift on the ban may actually be beneficial to trade. Recently, farmers have managed to ban the Giro d'Italia's wolf mascot, aptly named Lupo Wolfie, due to his presence being seen as pure provocation by the French farmers group.
The activist website Everyday Feminism recently released an article on what it really means to be furry by Christine Denowith. The website looks at some misconceptions about the community as a whole and stereotypes that have been portrayed by those outside of the community as true. The Adjective Species 2016 Furry Polls are now open, and our second last article will be the Ursa Majors, a literature and arts award ceremony that has recently announced its winners for the 2015 cycle. We'll look at some of the nominees and winners of the awards.
And finally, the macaw, Ara Douglas, famous for his portrayal of several roles in the Pippi Longstockings films, finally comes to rest in a zoo in Karlsruhe.
In our main bulletin this evening, we look at the Furaffiniy hack that occurred on the 16th of May 2016. It is alleged that someone had obtained a copy of FA's source code, copied and distributed amongst others. This led to the shutting down of the website for a long period of time. It also led to a long period where furs were unsure as to whether their accounts had been hacked, as well as many new accounts having to be re-registered. This caused a mass outcry amongst furs, both old and new to the website. Since then, things have seemed to be running as smoothly as possible, but there is still a lot of doubt amongst furs as to whether this may happen again. A Baltimore TV news station found itself the subject of the evening news after a harrowing day involving a man in an animal onesie, a bomb threat, a few candy bars, and a robot. The 25-year-old suspect, who investigators identified as a white male from Howard County, was shot by police after forcing an evacuation of the WBFF TV news station in North Baltimore with a bomb threat. The man set his car on fire in the station's parking lot before demanding the station air a story he brought with him on a flash drive. Police couldn't confirm the contents of the flash drive, although the station's security guard said it had to do with government conspiracies. The man, whose name wasn't released Thursday, then threatened to blow up the building after being denied entry to the station's lobby. The man was wearing a surgical mask, sunglasses, and what police described as a panda outfit onesie with a hood and a red vest-like device underneath. The building was evacuated after it was believed the device was actually a bomb. The man had not died of his wounds, and eventually the man complied to the police orders and the robot disarmed him of his vest. The device he had was not an actual explosive device. The red device was discovered to be chocolate candy bars wrapped in aluminum foil, held together with wiring and strapped to a motherboard. After having ruled in favor of the banning of shredding male chickens after birth in October of last year, the Administrative High Court in Munster ruled in favor of the shredding. They ruled in favor because it was seen that it was not economically feasible to raise male chicks at a hatchery. Now, personally, on my side, I don't necessarily believe that on a moral perspective that this is actually right. There are other ways to actually do this. You're killing chicks just because they can't lay eggs, which means that it kind of it doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, but economically sort of makes sense. I mean, there's a 50-50 chance that whatever egg is hatching is going to be male or female, but more often than not. And sending male chicks off to be raised at like an actual chicken farm for meat is, I don't know how much of a logistical nightmare that is, but it seems, yeah, economically it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
But I mean, even from an economic perspective, we're not necessarily looking at this as though it's, you know, it's if it's just about money, then maybe I can understand it. But the thing is that even then, you can sell the chickens and make at least some of that money back that you would have spent raising them in the first place.
Yeah, I suppose. But again, logistics. I
Yeah.
mean, how sometimes it's more, it will cost more to just ship those chicks somewhere else and uh, yeah, pay for transport and pay for bedding and whatever, than it will to just get rid of them as they are.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Unfortunately.
Mm.
In November 2015, a South African judge lifted a domestic ban on the trade of rhino horn in a direct challenge to government policy put in place in 2009 to try and stem the rocketing poaching numbers. With us here is our local correspondent and environmental researcher, Dan Leo. Dan.
Good day.
Firstly, like, is this law good or bad for trade?
For black market trade, it is definitely bad.
Okay, why do you say that?
Well, if we legalize the trade of rhino horn all over the world, obviously right now it is illegal. So the only way to get it to the specific markets is through the black market trade. Legalizing the trade from the source country, i.e. South Africa or Southern Africa, would mean an utter collapse within the black market trading area because there's much less risk for the patrons involved and the clients, as well as the people gathering the resources from the beginning.
Okay. Is there any opposition to this train of thought, like that the lift of the ban was potentially a bad idea?
Yes. Although it is definitely a good thing in preventing the extinction of the rhino species. This would mean opening the market to breeders to specifically breed rhino in captivity for the harvesting of their horns.
Okay, so it'll basically produce a sort of canned farming, of a canned hunting scenario.
Well, not so much hunting as more in the lines of a
Like a breeding facility, like you said.
yes, it's a technically rhino horn is a renewable resource.
Of course.
Because horn itself is made of keratin, which means it's made of the same stuff as our hair, as our nails, so it does grow back. The average growth of a rhino horn per year is around about 7 centimeters, and there has been numerous ways of shaving the horns very humanely to obtain this resource. But again, it opens the market for specific breeding, not so much canned breeding, but you can't necessarily have your resources running around in the natural environments that they would be. So they would be caged and they would be kept in tight camps, which I feel as well would be morally wrong towards the animals.
That it more sort of resembles a battery farm than anything else.
Yes.
Okay. Oh well, considering these factors, I mean, the legalization seems to be like in the right direction to at least sort of cripple the black market, but for the time being, we have no solid data on that yet, so only time will really tell.
This is true. In a short-term solution, this is definitely the only way we can stop the extinction of the rhino species. In a long-term solution, I would say education is definitely a must because rhino horn is being used in medicinal resources for certain Asian countries, whereas it has literally no
medicinal value whatsoever.
Medicinal value, you could say that taking rhino horn is just as good as chewing your toenails. So,
Fair point. Thank you for your time, then, Leo.
very welcome. Thank you for having me on.
The Giro d'Italia's wolf mascot, Lupo Wolfie, was banned from accompanying the race when it entered France at the end of May this year. A French farmers group called for the ban after suffering a string of wolf attacks on local farms, claiming the mascot to be pure provocation. Farmers claimed they're tired of seeing wolves only represented to the public as, quote, a nice soft toy.
Everyday Feminism has recently posted a comic based around the misinformation surrounding furries. This comic is named Furries Debunked by Christine Denowith, who is a contributing artist to Everyday Feminism. She speaks about the reasons as to why people become furries and answers questions surrounding otherkin, sexual proclivity, and bestiality, and how she became part of the fandom herself, as well as other questions. This helps in its own way to debunk some myths surrounding the community and closes with a statement as follows. The best part about the furry community is the fact that no one is turned away. We are a giant family. This is a safe place to be yourself, a place full of love and support. What about that deserves hate? For a lot of people, it's home. Adjective Species has recently opened its 2016 Furry Poll that has been running for quite a few years now. The poll seeks to study various habits in respect to furries, including age, years in the fandom, and sexual orientation, to name a few. Adjective Species also works in conjunction with Courtney Nuka's own research and helps bring information about the fandom as a whole. This is very interesting for a varied number of reasons. The study of smaller social groups and their interactions amongst one another has been a field that has been vastly studied in sociology recently and brings with it a plethora of new information. We thank J.M. Horse and the team of Adjective Species and Courtney Nuka for their continued work in adding our presence to this field. The 14th annual Ursa Major Awards took place at What the Fur in Montreal on May 20th of this year. We will look at some of the nominees as well as winners of the awards and see how they fared. From the Best Anthropomorphic Motion Picture category, we're looking at the nominees who were Inside Out, Shaun the Sheep, The Good Dinosaur, The Peanuts Movie, and The Lion Guard, Return of the Roar. Those of you who don't know, that's from the Lion King franchise. And the winner of this was actually Inside Out. Scratch, do you have anything to say about this?
No, in all honesty, like Inside Out definitely clinches that category. Kind of like borderlines the concept of anthropomorphic as we know it, or like the furry thing, but definitely the best movie of the bunch, I feel.
I think you're pretty right on that one. Although Shaun the Sheep, the movie, might have been, it came a close second, so that's definitely a good call for it, I guess. Everything else, again, Lion Guard, Lion King.
The Peanuts movie Peanuts movie is just sort of a cash in.
Fair enough. Yeah. Right, so then we move on to the Best Anthropomorphic Novel. Scratch, would you like to mention the nominees?
Yeah. The runners-up, at least, were In a Dog's World by Mark E. Load, Windfall by Tempo Okun. Excuse me?
Pause.
Fuck, what?
It's Mary.
Mary, oh, so did I say Mark?
You said Mark.
Okay, cool.
Okay, we can carry on with this one.
I'll splice this one together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll try this again.
Mm-hmm.
In the category of Best Anthropomorphic Novel, the runners-up were In a Dog's World by Mary E. Loud, Windfall by Tempo Okun, one of our regular guests, A Heart Behind the Mask by N. Karmakat Franzetti, and Gene Storm City in the Sky by Paul Kidd. And the winner is Tiger's Eye by Alexander Shaw.
Now, I've actually read up about Alexander Shaw, especially after seeing the nominees and things like that. And obviously he'd won, so I had to go check him out. And I was like, who's this person that beat out Tempo Okun? And all the others, of course. Um, but I mean, he's a very very well known writer by now. He's well respected within the furry community from what I hear. And I guess he might have been a good choice. I've read some of Tempo's stuff, and he's really really getting very good at what he's doing actually. But then again, maybe we're showing a little bit of a bias.
A little bit.
A little bit. All right.
Okay. Moving on. Best anthropomorphic graphic story. Ivic.
Now, we have a couple of very, very good graphic stories that were actually mentioned here. One of them being Lackadaisy by Tracy J. Butler, My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, IDW Publishing, which is very interesting. The Golden Week by Douglas Kim, and End Town by Aaron Nethery. However, the winner, probably because of his fame and general like internet wonderfulness, was Two Kinds by Tom Fischbach. Those of you who don't know, he is the brother of Mark Fischbach, and I guess to a large extent that might have pushed him a little bit into the extremely favorable category. I, however, would have preferred Lackadaisy to definitely be up there.
For real? Tom is
Yeah.
Markiplier's brother.
Yeah, you didn't know this?
I did not know this.
Huh.
News to me.
News to you. News to everyone. This is the news. Anyway, so yeah, Two Kinds wins by, I think it was a landslide last time I checked. It was, I think, a factor of 1,000 or so votes more than Lackadaisy. But again, like for art style, Lackadaisy is absolutely one of the most beautiful art pieces and graphic stories that I've seen.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to the next one, which would be Best Anthropomorphic Game. Again, we're not doing all of these. We're just going to do some of the ones that we've earmarked. Scratch?
Okay. Runners up in this category were Ori and the Blind Forest by Moon Studios, Armello by League of Geeks, Five Nights at Freddy's 3 by Scott Cawthon, and Yokai Watch by Level 5. And I believe the runaway winner in this category for last year was Undertale by Toby Fox.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't see any contest there. Like, Ori and the Blind Forest, visually pretty stunning and a very, like, up opening, but
Yep.
Undertale just takes it for something that's been like, so under the radar and then just bow.
Yeah. And I mean, for the fact that it just used... What was the gaming engine that they used to do that?
I don't know. I think
it was like RPG Maker.
Oh, really? That's a very
I don't
simple
know.
engine.
Well, I mean, it is top down. It aesthetically, it's a very simple game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I think RPG Maker actually has the capacity to do what they did.
It seems it was Game Maker Studio, but that's also
It was a Game Maker Studio.
quite a simple engine, but not unpowerful.
Yeah. All right. Things to look forward to for next year, I think, would probably be. I think Tempo Kun is busy working on a game, from what I heard.
Mm-hmm. Working
Obviously, in respect to the best movie, most of us will be gunning for Zootopia.
How dare you?
What do you mean, how dare you? What?
The
Okay.
Secret Life of Pets is so much better.
Rock Dog?
I don't know, dude. No, like,
Okay.
I'm serious. I'm being facetious. I'm gunning for Zootopia.
Zootopia defs.
Mm-hmm.
Secret Life of Pets might be... No. I don't necessarily... No. It'll be one of those feel-good movies, I think. And then, of course, Finding Dory.
Yeah, I suppose. We'll see.
Yeah. Definitely an Oscar nominee.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
And then, of course, for those of you who don't know, Tempo Kun is also releasing a novel this year. At the end of Anthrocon, he'll be making Six's Wild 2, which is coming out at the end of Anthrocon. So I expect that to be on the list as well.
Our final story, on a bit of a lighter note. Douglas, the Aramako who starred in Pippi Longstockings on the Seven Seas, has found a new home in a zoo in Karlsruhe. Facing an uncertain future at his previous home at the Malmö Reptile Center in southern Sweden, the retired parrot was to be put down, but was moved at the beginning of May to his new location in the Karlsruhe Aviary.
Thank you for listening to the Furry.fm English news. From my side, Ivic Wolf.
And from me, Scratch.
Until next time. Till next